What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. Welcome to Splash City. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Did you know that most of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed? I'd like to try to change that. So if you've been around the channel for a while, you enjoy watching my content, and you feel like this is a good place for you, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It would really help me out a lot. With that out of the way, let's talk about the NBA free agency yet again. We're going on. This is, we're in day 3 of free agency right now. And, a lot has happened, right? There's been a lot of players that have signed, a couple of big sign-in trades, but we are still waiting on a few, significant free agents, some guys who have not agreed on contracts yet that are left over. So I wanted to go over who is left out there on the market, who's still available, who is not signed yet, that is definitely going to get a deal, of course, and where they could potentially go, what are good fits for them, and what are the options. So just for reference, right now I'm recording this at about 2:30 Mountain Time, which is where I am. That's 1:30 Pacific, and that's about 4:30 Eastern on August 4th. So, this is, a couple days into free agency, and as we know, things change quickly. I'm assuming that by the time this is uploaded, by the time that this, I'm able to edit and upload this, then maybe, a couple of these guys will have already signed somewhere. Probably by the time you're seeing this, that has changed, but as of right now, this is just a snapshot of where we're at in free agency. This is who's left, this is who's on the market, and obviously, things might break as I'm recording this, and we'll go over those, but this is just going to be a snapshot of who's left over right now, and where they could potentially end up going. So here's the first, list of guys. This is organized by how much they were getting paid last year. So this is on Spotrac.com, which is where I'm getting this data. You'll see Victor Oladipo at the top there. He signed back to the Heat this morning. That has not been updated on this website, but Victor Oladipo is back with Miami, so he's off the table. Kawhi Leonard, we are expecting back with the Clippers. He's going to be hurt for most of next season, and all the destinations that he could have potentially gone to have already used all their cap space. Of course, the Miami Heat, Dallas Mavericks, really anywhere that Kawhi Leonard could have potentially gone is just basically assuming that he's not going to go there at this point. So he will be back with the Clippers is what most people are assuming. So take him off this list as well. Beyond those two, we have Dennis Schroeder, who is lost himself a lot of money. He potentially turned down a big contract extension from the Lakers during the regular season, and expecting himself to be able to get a bigger contract this offseason in free agency, and that just did not work out for him. He has not gotten signed anywhere, and most of the destinations for Schroeder have kind of evaporated. So he does not have much left for him. A lot of the options were, of course, the New York Knicks, but they just got their hands on Kemba Walker this morning, as well as re-signing Derrick Rose, and then also getting Evan Fournier in there and re-signing Alec Burks. So they're set at guard. They don't really need Schroeder, and they used up all their space for him anyway. Other than that, really the only team with cap space left is the Charlotte Hornets, and we know they don't need a guard. Obviously, having LaMelo Ball on the roster, as well as just drafting James Bouknight and lots of other guards there, as well as Terry Rozier. So they don't really need a guard on their roster either. Spurs used up all their cap space, and they weren't really rumored for Schroeder anyway. There could potentially be, he could be worked into the Spencer Dinwiddie sign and trade for to the Washington Wizards, through the Lakers and stuff. Those details are still being worked out as I'm recording this. So there's a couple of destinations left out there for Dennis Schroeder, but he's not going to get the money that he was hoping. Potentially just returning to the Lakers. They have his bird rights, and they're going to be paying a ton in luxury tax if they do re-sign him, but I guess that's always an option. You could work out a sign and trade with the Lakers, but that becomes complicated because they're right up against the cap. So Schroeder's destinations have evaporated, and he might have to look into taking the mid-level exception. So Dennis Schroeder, I could definitely see him signing for a mid-level exception, whichever team really wants to go for it, whichever contender out there still has their mid-level available and wants to sign Dennis Schroeder to a one-year deal. I could definitely see him taking that and just re-entering free agency next summer. If he plays well this season, he could potentially get himself, his payday that he was hoping for, just get that next summer rather than this year. So we'll have to, play a little waiting game with Dennis Schroeder, but he's definitely lost himself a lot of money. Kind of unfortunate for him. Danny Green is also a free agent. Danny Green and Andre Iguodala I'll kind of lump together. Both of those guys are potentially looking for the mid-level. There's contenders out there that are going to be looking to get their hands on these guys. Both of them veterans with championship experience and have been around the league for a long time. Danny Green, obviously one of the better shooters in the NBA, and Andre Iguodala, his intangibles, his leadership. He's also good defensively, and he can play on ball, kind of be a facilitator that way. So both of them are obviously very experienced, and I think some contenders are going to be looking to add them both to the roster. Andre Iguodala, of course, has had the rumored return to the Golden State Warriors. Could always be an option for him, whether they want to offer him the mid-level or just a minimum deal if the market is a little bit drier for him. Danny Green, he could potentially go to Golden State as well on a minimum. I know he's been a heavy rumor there. There's been a rumor, return to the Lakers if the minimum is only that he's getting. Obviously, there's tons of contenders out there. The Clippers, I think, are going to be looking for players like that. The Milwaukee Bucks are looking for veterans. We know the Celtics have been, sniffing around some veterans over the past couple of days. So I think there's a lot of options for both of these guys. Really, any contender around the league but could potentially take a look. And I would not be shocked to see either of them get the mid-level or the minimum. I guess we'll just have to see how the market looks for them over the coming days. Kelly Oubre Jr. This is definitely an interesting one, especially for me as a Warriors fan, because the market is pretty dry for Kelly Oubre right now. He has, he was expecting to get $15 to $20 million a season, maybe on a longer term contract. And there's just, the reality is that's not out there for him right now. Pretty much all the teams used their cap space already. Like I said, the Knicks, Mavericks, Heat, Spurs, really the Hornets are the only team with cap space left. So I guess they could be ones to sign Kelly Oubre outright, although the fit there might be a little bit questionable. So, there's really nobody that can sign him outright anymore. Does he want to just come back to the Warriors? Are the Warriors going to be willing to pay that big luxury tax in order to retain Kelly Oubre? Or is it going to be, he comes back on a mid-level exception, potentially to the Warriors or somewhere else? Although I don't know if he can sign the mid-level with Golden State now that he's been on the team already. I'm not sure exactly the rules on that, but Oubre is going to have to, he's probably not going to get his big payday. He's made a similar thing as Dennis Schroeder, where he's a good player, but he might not get exactly the money that he was hoping for this summer in free agency. So might have to take like a 1-year deal somewhere, and hopefully enter free agency again next summer and look for that money then. But I would not be shocked to see him back with the Warriors. But given that his market is drying up, I think a sign and trade could be in the works for him, which is good for Golden State, because they can potentially get something back for a guy who wasn't really a good fit on their team to begin with. So if the Warriors can get something back for him in a sign and trade, I think they would definitely consider doing that. If they can just bring him back and potentially trade him down the line, I think there's an option there for him. So the market is dry for Kelly Oubre. There was a lot of Spurs rumors, but they, like I said, they kind of ate up all their cap space. You're not only signing a guy like Doug McDermott and Zach Collins, but also doing that sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan, which brings Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu onto the roster. So they kind of ate up all of their cap space, and the Spurs don't have much flexibility left. So maybe there's a sign and trade that you can do, sending Kelly Oubre to San Antonio, but he could potentially go somewhere else, and it'll be interesting to see how that one shakes out as well. I think him and Schroeder are the two most interesting guys left on the market, given how much they were expecting to make, and what the reality of the situation is right now is going to prevent them from being able to do that. JJ Redick, would not be shocked if he just retired. I don't know how much he has left in the tank. He's a shooter. He could potentially sign a minimum somewhere. I could see the Lakers being interested. They need spacing. Other than that, there's a lot of contenders that I think would take a chance on a shooter like JJ Redick, even though he wasn't really healthy last season, and it looks like he's showing signs of aging. So would not be shocked to see him retire. Justice Winslow, Dante Exum, I think are in a similar boat. I would not be surprised if Exum was out of the NBA next year. I think Winslow probably deserves another chance. But he was, injured with the Grizzlies last year and hasn't played much with them over the past couple of seasons. So Justice Winslow will probably get a minimum deal somewhere and have a chance to kind of prove it again and see if he can rehab his career. I don't necessarily think that has to be with a contender. He could potentially sign, a team like OKC or Houston or Detroit or, one of the worst teams in the league, and, try to have the opportunity to play a lot and see if he turns into something. Paul Millsap, George Hill actually already signed to the Bucks, so take him off this list as well. It's just not updated. Paul Millsap, Lou Williams, both veterans who could potentially sign minimum somewhere. Millsap might make the exception. Lou Williams, I would expect him back in Atlanta, just because he had hinted at retirement, but he ended up playing for the Hawks, and I think there's only a few teams that he would really consider playing one more year for. Other than that, he might just retire. So Lou Williams probably back with Atlanta on the minimum is my guess. And then Paul Millsap, I think he could potentially, we've heard some rumors, again, Golden State. I think the Lakers are interested, potentially back to Denver, but he could maybe make the mid-level exception, but could also be a minimum for Paul Millsap given his age. So we'll see. One of the more valuable veterans still out there. Felicio, I don't expect him back in the NBA next year. Aaron Baines, he just got cut from the Raptors this morning. I could see him, signing a minimum somewhere for a team that needs a big man. There's always teams out there that need a backup big guy, and Baines, didn't have a great season last year, but I think he's done enough enough to stick in the NBA. Avery Bradley, veteran, played on a bunch of contenders in his career. I could see him signing somewhere on a minimum contract. Again, Lakers, Warriors, Clippers. Those are going to be the most attractive destinations, I think. And then Lauri Markkanen is an interesting one. He is going to be restricted still. I was a little surprised that he didn't end up going back to San Antonio in the DeMar DeRozan deal. Working out a double sign and trade of sorts, sending Lauri Markkanen to the Spurs. Given that we had kind of heard that they had interest, but ultimately, it doesn't end up going through there. He is still restricted for the Bulls, so the Bulls can match any contract offer that he gets, but they have already, made their big moves, getting Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and DeMar DeRozan. So, do they want to bring back Lowry? They certainly can, or they can, work out a sign and trade, sending him somewhere else, or just decline to match a contract. I will be closely monitoring what happens with Lauri Markkanen over the next couple of days because, yeah, he hasn't been good the past couple of seasons, but he's only 24 years old. Entering his 5th season in the NBA, was drafted very highly a couple of years ago, and is a restricted free agent. So he still clearly has some value out there on the market. I'll be interesting to see what he gets, but I would not be shocked to see him back with the Bulls. Would not be shocked to see them working out a sign and trade, potentially sending him somewhere else and getting maybe just picks back for that, given that they had to send picks out for DeMar DeRozan. So should be an interesting one, definitely, with Lauri Markkanen over the next few days. Breaking news just now, Golden State trades Eric Paschall to the Jazz for a protected future second-round pick. So not much getting back to Golden State for Eric Paschall, mostly just to free up a roster spot. I appreciated what Paschall did for the Warriors, but I think they needed to free up that spot there to potentially sign some more veterans because already adding Bjelica, Otto Porter. So I guess that potentially makes it more likely that we will see a move for a guy like Paul Millsap or Andre Iguodala, Danny Green, any of these guys to the Warriors, because clearly they're freeing up the roster spot with somebody in mind. So potentially, one of those guys going to the Warriors. But yeah, there's some breaking news for you in this video right now. Thanks, Eric, for your service to Golden State. He gets to go play with Donovan Mitchell now, which is his good buddy. So I'm gonna miss him though. I did like what he brought to the team, but ultimately I think it was time to move on. So there's that, and let's move on with these free agents now. Really quickly, a list of veterans that I expect on minimum deals somewhere. Mike Scott, Ed Davis, Frank Kaminsky, Stanley Johnson, Elfrid Payton, Wesley Matthews, Bismack Biyombo, James Ennis, Patrick Patterson, Ryan Arcidiacono, Reggie Jackson will probably make more than the minimum, but back with the Clippers or maybe somewhere else. E'Twaun Moore, Raul Neto, DeAndre Bembry, Alfonso McKinney, Willie Hernangomez, Harry Giles, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, Brad Wanamaker. Probably should all get deals somewhere. A couple of those guys might be out of the NBA, but I would expect at least most of those guys to be on a minimum contract at some location in the NBA. Again, other than Reggie Jackson, I guess I just threw him in there, but he's going to make more than the minimum. He's another interesting one, potentially back to the Clippers or a mid-level somewhere else. He played himself into a little bit more money in their playoff run, so I'm a little surprised that he hasn't signed already. And then I have a couple of younger guys here that are either restricted free agents or some of them aren't, but could potentially find a contract somewhere as a younger guy in the NBA. Svi Mykhailiuk, Jared Vanderbilt, Josh Hart, DJ Wilson, Dennis Smith Jr., and Frank Ntilikina are all still out there. Potentially, some of those guys could get minimum somewhere. Specifically Dennis Smith, Ntilikina, I think could be minimum guys. DJ Wilson as well. Josh Hart's restricted, so I could see him getting a decent contract, maybe back to the Pelicans, or again getting him to go somewhere else potentially. Maybe a sign and trade could be worked out for him. I still like Josh Hart as a player. I think he's got some value left. Jared Vanderbilt, for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I think has some value after how well he played this last year. I believe he is restricted as well. And then Svi Mykhailiuk he's on the Thunder right now, right? And so he could potentially be. I think he's restricted still. So getting him back on a specific contract could be worth it for the Pistons. I think that is about it that's out there right now. Like I said, a lot of these guys might end up being signed by the time you're seeing this video, but that is right now a snapshot of the free agency market. So yeah, I'm going to try to get this up as fast as I can so nothing is too outdated by the time you guys are seeing this. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about free agency right now, where these players going to end up going. Specifically Dennis Schroeder, Kelly Oubre, I think are the two most interesting guys out there right now. So give me your predictions down in the comments below. With all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.